What's up, guys? Welcome back to Goomie's Shotgun Funhouse, and today we're going to be all about movement with shotgun and tips on how to close that gap. This is going to be a real in-depth and deep with information type of video that may be pretty obvious to some, but ultimately I think there are some things that most people of all skill levels could take away when it comes to trying to use a shotgun in Warzone, and honestly just a close range gun. Some of these tips will apply mainly to shotguns, but honestly they will work with any close range guns like SMGs or maybe even some ARs. Now, there are a plethora of movement guides and tips for Warzone by people who are way more qualified than me. What I think makes this video stand out is it does offer some tips pertaining more to shotguns, obviously, and just tips for being up close and personal overall. That being said, if you are really trying to elevate your playing to the next level, or just want to get some fun tips for shotguns, or just want to see if I can possibly offer anything of value at all, watch the video to the end, but make sure to watch other videos about movement as well. Like I said, there are so many of these guides, and just like with real life, it's good to have multiple sources and sort of combine all that knowledge to find things that work for you. I'm not going to go over every single little nuance, but I do want to hit some main points that I think are important. I'm not by any means an amazing player, but I understand shotgun mechanics and have been burnt by them so bad over the years, just trying to make them work in Warzone and use all sorts of wacky setups with slugs and the bad muzzle velocity. Oh, it's awful. So hopefully I can offer something of value. Also, I am pleased to announce that I am now partnered with the wonderful company some of you have heard of, eXtremeRate, and the Gaming Cobra website, who are known for their custom PS5 back paddles and customization options. I don't take partnerships lightly, and I wanted my first partnership to be something I stood behind 100%, and I am so excited to let you guys know that this video is technically sponsored, and that I will be recommending their products later on in this video, and that you can use my referral link for 10% off your Gaming Cobra orders, or use code Goomie at checkout if you want to support me as a creator. Just wanted to be 100% transparent. Now, if you guys do manage to score something sweet off the site or Amazon, please let me know in the comments or on Twitter, tag me, and I will make sure to thank you personally for it. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to some tips. My first tip is to be aggressive. Close the gap. You might be thinking to yourself, well, that's kind of obvious, isn't it? Well, it is, but a lot of people don't really seem to play aggressively and close that gap. And for a shotgun specifically, that's pretty dang important. For example, the nerf to the Akimbo double barrel shotgun. Let's take a look at that real quick. The real nerf, where it basically turned into a complete 180 of its former self. Most people were trying to use it at 10 meters, hip firing an Akimbo shotgun, and were surprised to see it was really bad. Yes, before the nerf it was broken and ridiculous, but to expect a shotgun like that to excel at that range and thinking you don't have to be close the gap is a bit naive, with no disrespect intended. The double barrel is pretty rough to use, but that's because it involves such extreme close ranges, as it should. But my point to that is that you gotta close the gap more, and of course, that is easier said than done. For me personally, when I play with something like the pump actions, I would always be a little bit hesitant because, oh gosh, I have such a slow fire rate, if I miss a shot, I'm gonna die. So I'd play a little bit slower and kind of be a bit too passive in my playing. But when I started to say screw that and started to move more aggressively and try to finesse around cover and close the gap, I noticed I was playing and winning more gunfights with these shotguns. I'm not saying just go in headfirst and engage someone and just slide headfirst into them. It takes more finesse than that, and you have to utilize cover. Move from cover to cover and try to get as close as you can so that your shotgun can do as much damage as it can. If you run 1v1 into someone and you don't have cover with a pump action at least, you're probably dead. Like I said, it sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised that when you actively and intentionally focus on that during a game, it can have some pretty amazing results, and people will panic because, oh my god, a guy with a flaming shotgun is zooming towards me. Experiment with auto tac sprint. Auto tac sprint is such a lifesaver in so many ways when you play this game. It's not only going to make your sprinting much more reliable and consistent, since it doesn't rely on you pushing down on your thumbstick, but it also saves your thumbstick from getting damaged by the constant pushing on it. I've ruined a couple joysticks over the years because of Call of Duty and how you sprint on controller, so this has been really nice. The huge problem with auto tac sprint is that when you start to use shotguns or other semi-auto type of weapons, it's really difficult to do. Have you ever tried using a Gallo with auto tac sprint? It ends up being way more of a problem than a help if you don't know what to do. Luckily, I did make a guide covering ways to use shotguns and auto tac sprint together, so I won't go too in-depth here, but here are a few pointers. When you are about to shoot, hold back on your thumbstick, just pull back. When you do that, you don't trigger sprinting. Obviously, you're not going forward. So a good habit for pump action specifically is when you're running around and you see someone, immediately hold back when you get into an engagement right after sprinting. It works side to side as well. Just don't go any bit forward. No diagonal movements forward, as it will trigger your sprinting. If you're using a semi-auto, you can try jumping and holding down that jump button while you shoot. Holding it down will cause it to sort of cancel the auto tac sprint, and you'll just end up walking. It's handy when you need to approach a corner a bit more carefully and not just run in and end up getting your gun up, only to have it do that stutter step and then get you killed. Strafing is another really good option as well, as that will also not activate auto tac sprint. Overall, it's a really good utility to have and to use, but it can be really difficult, and at times it can be more trouble than it's worth. But if you want to have really good movement, there's a reason that most people have this setting turned on. If you're going for SMGs, absolutely use it. The only ones that make this a struggle are semi-autos and shotgun type of weapons. Practice your centering. Centering is something that a lot of people tend to overlook and that even I still deal with today because of old habits. Have you ever watched someone play and they go down to pick some ground loot up and then they run around and their hipfire reticle is still facing down? Well, they're basically running around looking down, and while that's nice for looting, it puts you at a huge disadvantage when you run into someone, especially on rebirth. Why is it so important? Well, if you run into someone, you want your sights to be as close as you can to the enemy's chest level. You want your gun to be center of the screen and ready to go to deal damage to the right areas and immediately. When you're facing down and not focusing on centering, you end up shooting the legs and you try to correct the upper torso. If the enemy had their crosshairs already at your chest level, you will probably end up dying. That small amount of time, we're talking milliseconds here, that it takes to get your gun up to their chest level can be the difference between winning and losing gunfights because of the nature of the time to kill in this game. With a shotgun, this can be even more important because if you miss just one shot, not just one bullet, but one shot, or aim at legs and have only 2 pellets hit, you are a goner if you're not in cover. It's really important to try and have your gun up and center and ready to go, no matter the gun really, but especially for shotguns. It's something you need to really consciously focus on a lot at first. If it feels like you're aiming way too high and that you're constantly having to look up, you're probably doing it right, because that's kind of how it feels like when you're not used to it. It's definitely a habit to get into, but it's a habit that will save you more often than not, and it's something that, yet again, pro players and streamers are very good at because they get the value in it and they practice it. Next tip, picking off number 1, is to play cat and mouse. You probably heard me say this before, but with shotguns it's extremely important, especially pump actions. And what do I mean by cat and mouse? You have to utilize cover effectively. If you're engaging people head on with a shotgun, most of the time you're asking for trouble, unless you're already like 5 meters away with a spammy one like the Origin 12. One of the best places on Rebirth Island for this, or to practice it, is the middle section of prison where the jail cells are. There are columns upon columns and walls upon walls. I've had some of my best moments in that area because it lets you really move around cover and try to close that gap in creative and fun ways. It can be hard against a team if you're by yourself because you end up getting flanked, but it's infinitely better than engaging, say, on top of prison rooftops. It's a good place to practice too if you end up playing Rebirth Plunder, which can be hella intense with constant engagements. But really, you need to be focusing more on using cover and weaving in between your areas of cover. With a shotgun, you just do not have the luxury of engaging people head on at any range past 7 meters and being well off. You have to close that gap and push smart, using as much cover as possible. Be a sweat and to learn how to effectively slide cancel. Slide canceling is pretty much synonymous with sweaty players, TikTok, Twitch, yada yada, but there's a reason for that. These are the guys that take this game seriously and they want to do everything they can to get some sort of advantage. That's why slide canceling is so popular, because if done correctly, it can offer some huge benefits like resetting your auto tac sprint, getting you to cover in quickly, and getting out of bad engagements more, and best of all, closing that gap. There is nothing better than slide canceling into a rose skin with a 725 and blasting your shots and watching them get down. It's incredibly satisfying, and it's a really great way to move around the map effectively. Now, I won't get into specifics too much because there's some really great movement guides already talking about slide canceling, but there's a certain rhythm that you want to have with it. You don't want to slide and immediately cancel it and constantly keep doing that no matter how fun it is, trust me, I know, and you don't want to awkwardly slide and then just end up jumping at the end and throwing off your movement. I recommend going into Modern Warfare private matches, just sliding around and getting comfortable with it. If you don't have back paddles, or if you don't play mouse and keyboard, or if you don't play controller with the claw configuration, then it's going to be really annoying to do, which is why I always recommend back paddles on your controller. And for my next tip, this is a really big one. As much as I don't want to offer advice that involves having to spend money of any kind, I have to be honest with you guys. The tip is to get yourself a set of back paddles or a controller with paddles. There is a reason every pro player, every streamer, every really competitive player, or most, maybe not all, have some sort of scuff or battle beaver controller. Being able to map buttons on your controller and have extra triggers to be able to aim and jump and do other actions at the same time is a massive, massive advantage to people who just do not have that option, and it's a huge way to boost your movement and playing ability. It isn't going to turn a bad player into a demon, but it will take average players in my book, make them a little bit better, and it offers a chance to really improve your movement and fluidity. Now, don't fret because I know scuffs are expensive. Battle beavers, aim controllers, all that stuff is really expensive, and to be honest, it's not necessary. It's a bit overkill, and from what I hear, these controllers tend to be pretty easy to break. If you're on PS4, grab 20 bucks and go buy the official Sony back paddles attachment. I used to use this years ago on the PS4, and after weeks of getting used to it, it finally started to click and I couldn't use a controller without it. If you play PS5, you don't have the Sony back paddle attachment, but you can use what I use, which is the eXtremeRate Rise 2.0 back paddles with the rubber grips. Now, as a heads up, I am partnered with eXtremeRate and Gaming Cobra, so if you want to score some incredibly well-built and great paddles, both plastic and metal triggers might I add, check out the referral link in the description below or use code Goomie at checkout on the Gaming Cobra website. You can also get them on Amazon and get that awesome next day shipping with Prime. These are incredibly great paddles to have and the best for PS5 right now at a fraction of the cost of a scuff. The Rise 2.0 back paddles are roughly $40 US and involve taking apart your controller to move some cables around and install them, which it is a bit daunting to open your PS5 controller the first time, but there's numerous guides on how to do it, and I'll link my favorite videos for that I always follow when I do it down below. eXtremeRate also offers the Rise 4.0 back paddles, which means 4 paddles instead of just 2, and then they also offer them in plastic as well as metal triggers. If you don't like how soft and squishy plastic is, you can get the metal ones, which take a little bit more force and are actually very durable and heavy, which I actually like that added weight. I do want to say, as a bonus, eXtremeRate also has tons of customization options for PS5 controllers, like shells and buttons and all that. Just look at my sexy, sleek wooden shell controller with real metal buttons and a rubber grip. I mean, this is really nice. They were gracious enough to send me these wooden painted shells, and I'll leave a link to these parts in the description below as well. But if you want to do something super easy to customize your PS5 controller, you can just get a new trim like this. Now, I know I probably sound like a talking advertisement now, but I seriously cannot recommend back paddles or the eXtremeRate back paddles enough, and they also have some amazing customer support. So if you are on PS5 and want to be able to get the most out of your controller, you need these paddles. And I've been offered partnerships in the past before. This is the first time I actually took one because I seriously stand by these paddles and the company 100%. But for real, get yourself a back paddle. I promise you, you will not regret it. For my next tip, this one pertains mostly to shotguns, but that is to know when to hip fire and when to aim down sights. Sounds simple enough, right? It makes a big difference though for a few reasons. Aim down sights will tighten your pellet spread, which in most cases is a good thing, but when you're point blank or really close to someone and you want more pellets to hit, sometimes aiming down sights can make your spread so tight that you're more likely to miss your shot. If you hip fire though, you have a much better chance of hitting them. But on the flip side, if you're maybe 7 meters away, your hip fire may be too wide, you may end up with a hard time with tracking while you're not aiming down sights, so you just end up missing so many pellets, and your shotgun suddenly turns into a BB gun. No bueno. This varies on a case-to-case basis by range and gun, but one of the reasons besides the damage that this is so important is because of how aim down sights can affect your mobility, and for a shotgun, this is important to know. But why I brought this up is because there's something not a lot of people talk about when it comes to aiming down sights and how it affects your mobility, and that is the aim down sights out animation, which affects your ability to slide. First off, aim down sights animation consists of 2 parts, the aim down sights in and the aim down sights out animation. Both are affected by your ADS speed. The faster it is, the quicker the animations will be, and vice versa. Like I said earlier, a big thing about good movement is being able to slide or slide cancel effectively. Well, if you're coming out of your aim down sights animation, if you are still in the middle of it, you will not be able to slide. All you will do is sprint and then you will crouch. when you are coming out of aim down sights, if your animation is still happening, it just will not let you slide. This is important because if you peek a corner, like with a Model 680, and you aim down sights and shoot your shot, you want to get back into cover as quick as possible. But if you have a really slow aim down sights time with all these attachments weighing you down, it's not going to let you slide. You'll just crouch and then you'll still be out of cover and you'll look like a dummy and get shot. It sucks. It's happened to me many, many times. Take, for example, this clip of the Jak 12 kitted out to be the slowest aim down sights time I could think of, or definitely at least one of the slowest in the game. And just to illustrate this point, if I try sliding while coming out of aim down sights, I just crouch. There is no way to really prevent that, but because of this mechanic, it's really important, especially for shotguns, to know when to aim down sights and when to hip fire, because hip firing will not affect your ability to slide. You can hip fire and slide all day super smooth, but the moment you aim down sights, you gotta wait for that ADS out animation to be done, so it's just something important to keep in mind. For my next tip, this is to utilize Stimshots. Stimshots, when they got their little buff, maybe like, I don't know, a year ago it feels like, I don't know how long it's been, but they got a pretty substantial buff where when you use them, you can just move so much more quick, and when you slide, you will go absolutely flying through the map. It's kind of hilarious, it's kind of cartoony, it's kind of silly looking. When I first saw it, I remember laughing out loud and thinking this is ridiculous, but man, it's been a godsend in so many situations, and in the gameplay you can probably see me use them quite a bit because, to be honest, these are on all of my classes. Any class that's going to be like close quarters or even not close quarters, just any class in general, I use Stimshots because they let me move so fast. They get me out of situations very quick. I can break cameras, I can break people's aim assist because I can slide around the corner with one and catch them completely off guard. It is such a strong piece of equipment that I think a lot of people are catching on to, and to be honest, I think a lot of streamers like to use it because, well, they know how to move, and so these really excel their movement in better ways. And so honestly, if you want to close that gap, or if you just want to be up close and personal, or like I said, get away from people, the Stimshots are a way to go, and really I cannot recommend them enough for any class that you make, especially one with shotguns. You definitely need to be rocking these with any sort of shotgun class. Whew, okay, I think we are done. Those were some really important tips that I wanted to cover that I've used over the years that have made me a little bit better. Like I said, I'm not an amazing player by any means, and my KD, all that kind of stuff, it's down the drain. It is gone. It is kaput because I've just ruined it. I've tried using so many stupid setups that I've just been demolished by meta guns, which isn't really that big of a deal. But honestly, I want to know what you guys think because I think that these are some really important tips, but I'm sure there's some other super important tips that I just missed or completely forgot about. So let me know in the comments below what you think some of those are. If you have any other tips for me or for other players or anybody at all, just let us know in the comments below and let me know what you thought of this video. It's definitely a longer one, so I apologize for that, but I know a lot of you guys also like longer videos. So let me know what you think about all that good stuff. Make sure to leave a like to help support the video and to help support me. And again, make sure to check out eXtremeRate's back paddles and their customization options. I seriously recommend it, guys. But with all that being said, I will see you in the next video.